on the screen, and hopefully we've all got this as well here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Super stuff.
Yes.
Right. Very good. Well, look, good morning to everyone. Nice to meet you. My name's James Barton. I'm one of the directors at MPW. I've been here for about 14 years. And indeed, knowing everything about universities has basically been my job for as long as I've been here. So hopefully, I can give you something over the course of the next few week period. My job over the course of this Ready for Excellence program, and it will only be 3 weeks with me, whereas it's 4 weeks of the program, but over 3 weeks to get you ready for university. So today is a bit more by way of an introduction to it, to give you the nuts and bolts and to give you a bit of a view as to what we can be thinking about. And then 2 further follow-up sessions. One's going to be about how we choose universities, what sort of things we're looking for, and then also in terms of how you write the personal statement, how you write the application, and how you make your application competitive. Anything with me, please, is designed to be interactive. I like as much participation as possible. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. If you're doing specific courses as well, like medicine or engineering or something like that, do feel free to flag that up to me. We have separate programs on that in this Ready for Excellence program, but they are also the areas of particular specialism. So I'll be happy to talk to you about those as we go through, or indeed separately. Now, some of these tasks, you need a pen, paper, and they're not all designed to be done now, but what I would like you to do over the course of the next week, as much as anything, is to pay attention to these 3 questions at the very top here. I want you to, 1, think of a time in your life that was important to you. I want you to write down what it was and why it was important. Number 2, what are the things that you wish that everyone would know about you? We've all got something, but I want you to put your arrogant hat on, and I want you to say what is important that you get across to somebody else. And number 3, when you were younger, what did you want to be and how did you try and achieve it? And we need to think a little bit beyond kids, when we all wanted to be sort of Disney princes and princesses and all that, and move slightly towards when we wanted to be firemen or doctors or lawyers or something along those lines. But use your imagination, be a little bit creative, and please write those all down. So welcome to MPW's Ready for Excellence program. And as I say, I'm here to try and help you stand out, but also to understand the process as we go. So in about half an hour, let's work through some things together. I like things to be interactive, as I say, so the first thing is I need you to warm up your brains this early on a Friday morning at the end of a week. So would you do me something, please? I would like you to think of a number. Think of any number that you like. I then want you to double it, add 9 to that result, subtract 3 from that result, divide the number by 2, and then subtract the number with the first number you started with. And then once you've done that, if you can tell me what your answer is in the message box, please. Everything I ever do always has a point to it. So you just have to suspend your disbelief for the moment and work through the puzzle.
Should I pick a number from 1 to 9 or any variations?
Sorry, say one more time.
Should I pick the number from 1 to 9 or any variations of the numbers?
It can be any number at all, any number you like. Try 1 to 9 and then you can try the same one with a much larger number.
Okay.
Right, so 3. Someone came up with 69. The person who came up with 69, tell me how you came about your number, please.
I just don't even know. I just typed it in the chat.
Okay, fair enough. Look, the answer is indeed 3, and it works with absolutely any number that you try. So cheap and easy tricks, but cheap and easy tricks often prove point. And the point is simply this. In Ucas, in the university system, you will always arrive at the same result, but the methodology will always be the same, but the starting point will always be different. And this exercise sort of just proves the point that we're looking to make here. Okay, the end result will always be the same. The methodology is all the same, but who you are unique, you are individual, you are your own number, and we just need to help you find your way there. Okay. And I want you to all be storytellers. I mean, a Ucas application is not a shopping list of all the things you've ever done. It is, far be it from just a recantation of who you are. It is about who you are in the context of what you want to do. And for this, we all need to become storytellers. And it's something that everyone misses when writing your application, is you've forgotten that you're a product to be sold to the university. And in the sense that you're a product to be sold, what sells something is a good backstory to it. And if you think of what a good story always needs, it needs an exciting beginning, it needs an interesting plot. You often have some good characters that goes into it, it's quite quick, it's got some flow to it, and at the end you've always left the audience with a happy feeling, or at least a feeling that they want something more. You never leave them disappointed, and you never leave them to the extent that that story is something that they don't want to go back and see again. Okay. Tiny little exercise that we often do, and we probably don't have time to do it now because we are on a tight time schedule this morning, but I'd like you to do it in your own time. I'd like you to write a 3-line story, and we're going to come back and revisit it at some point over the course of the next couple of sessions. But I want you to do this. I'm going to give you 3 stimulus. I'm going to say you have a character. Your character is a biology teacher. I'm going to give you a setting, and the setting, for the sake of argument here, is a supermarket. And I'm going to give you a problem and introduce a problem into the story. And the problem is that you have found a rat. Okay. Now, a 3-line story, nice and easy. An introduction, a middle, and an end. What I'd like you to do is to come up with a 3-line story that tells the story of exactly what I've just given you there, the character, the setting, and the problem. If ever you're questioning why it is that we're actually doing that, very simply, we are doing that because we're learning how to tell a neat and concise story. But I'm going to say this as well. My background comes specifically from the ancient world, and I can say that there is no such thing as an original story. And it's a really important point that you take on board. So if we look at this, I mean, all Greek gods and Roman gods, they've spawned what we have on cinema nowadays. Okay, all the Marvel characters actually come from mythology in the past. So if there is no such thing as an original story, how do we tell a story? Well, it's never about replaying what went before. It's about reinventing what went before. The fact that you can never do something original often trips people up. And when people are trying to be too creative or too original with how they actually tell the story, they missed a very simple point, which is that your story is very similar to someone else's. We've just got to put your personality through it, which will make it, in its sense, unique. Okay? So don't get hung up on certain things, particularly when so many personal statements and so many applications you ever read use the same words, the same terminology, have the same facts in as someone else's has gone before. So we're going to move you away from that and look at everyone as an individual and find out what makes you tick. Now, applying to Ucas. Ucas is the University College Admissions System. It's the centralised body that is used within the United Kingdom in order to be able to apply to universities in England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, but not Southern Ireland. So in order to apply to university, we go through that. Most people, when you start asking about UK education, everyone thinks Hogwarts and everyone thinks Oxbridge. Okay, the UK education system is far more than Oxbridge itself. There are over 150 universities over here. There's 6,000 plus degree programs from anything that you could possibly think of. So we have the time and we have the ability to help you look through lots of different things. Your one starting place to look at those courses is in fact the Ucas website itself, because on there they have a good search engine. You can type in your criteria and it will start returning certain results for you. Try and start there as opposed to with league tables. League tables only ever tell you what you're looking for. Lies, damn lies, and statistics, really. They only ever tell you what you are looking for. What we want you to do is find the course to start with, and then we can find the best universities. If you ever are looking too specifically at league tables, please bear this one point in mind, which is you want to look at subject-specific league tables for universities and not the overall league table the universities, because there is a big difference. The overall is based on student experience and the amount of money the university has for funding purposes and research purposes, whereas subject specific shows the strength of the department and the quality of education that you'll get when you are in fact there. So a balancing act to be found. You're allowed to apply for 5 universities, 4 if you're going for medicine, dentistry or veterinary, but 5 universities will receive your application. You only ever make 1 application to university itself, so therefore the application needs to look as though it appeals to all 5 universities. You're not writing 5 independent applications. That also means you need to pick the same course at, or at least a similar course at all 5 universities themselves. 2 deadlines fall into the university system. The 15th of October is there for anyone looking to do Oxbridge, which is the collective term for Oxford and Cambridge. And it's also there for medicine, dentistry and veterinary science students. They are earlier in the process because these are the courses that you're going to go through quite a rigorous interview process for. Okay, we're not going to deal with those on this particular program. Okay, we'll deal with those separately. We are dealing with the 15th of January deadline, which please don't leave that to the last minute. That's all I'll ever say towards the whole thing. If you leave it to the last minute, you tend to get caught up in the bottleneck at the end of all the students who are leaving things till last. The best time to apply is after the Oxbridge deadline of the 15th of October and by the 1st of December. That is the time that is best to apply, where you have a greater chance of being seen in a lower applicant number, i.e. most people don't apply at that time, therefore you're probably going to be considered in a slightly higher way. Okay. Sounds complicated. There's nothing complicated about Ucas at all. It's actually remarkably straightforward. And after 3 weeks of listening to me, you'll know it all and you won't need any more help from me, I'm sure. But here's the most important piece of advice for you. Grades will always talk. Okay, above all else, the UK is obsessed by grades. We're not the Americans. We don't have the American system of championing the extracurricular so much. We are looking at academic grades and a good academic reason as to why you want to study the course at university. Okay, so grades talk above all else. If they're not in place, you're already behind the curve when you start. So the MPW system, I mean, a lot of people on this program are joining us or are already with us at MPW. Some people on here might not be coming to MPW, but the MPW system, and I'm going to refer to it because it will help you understand how we do it, and then you can match it across to yourself. Actually, it starts with the interview. So I've already met most people and I've already started the university profiling experience with you. Here in the interview, first and foremost, we need to help you choose the right route towards the whole thing, okay? So A-levels versus IB is usually the biggest question that comes up, and A-levels will always win out. A-levels are the gold standard of education in the United Kingdom because they give you a more thorough preparation towards the specific subject there. If you're not sure what you want to do, then sometimes the IB is a bit more flexible and a bit broader for you. For the A-levels, there are nearly 1 million A-levels awarded now every year, and in that sense, they are always the gold standard. Is there a bias? No, but yes at the same time, and the bias does fall towards A-levels, okay? When you're choosing your A-levels, you come generally out of the GCSE and you go into the lower 6th year and the AS year, 15, 16 years old. Having done 10 subjects, you're now narrowing that down to about 4 or 3 subjects straight away. What we need to look at with these 4 or 3 subjects is that they reflect you, reflect your interests, and reflect what you want to do in the future. And we'll look at that in a second. Because in the second year, you then just have 3 subjects that you take forward to your final year of application. At that particular point in the final year, you are putting forward 3 predicted grades to the university, and from there, you will then be given a place or a conditional offer, which is conditional upon you getting the grades at the end of the year. I appreciate on this program today, we also have some people who are not studying in the United Kingdom. There are different answers for everyone on all of this, and I'll happily answer those questions separately. But the key often is, at the end of high school, if you can't apply directly to the university that you want to go to come over and either do a 1-year A-level or a foundation course first often gives you a better chance at the higher level of universities. but we can talk about things separately. Okay, all the universities only ever require 3 subjects. There is no benefit to be found in taking a 4th subject. So please do not go down the 4th subject route. But do something called the EPQ if you have a chance. If your school, our school, is doing the EPQ for you, that's something that is to be encouraged, because the EPQ is a standalone piece of work. It is there designed as an undergraduate-like dissertation that proves you have what it takes to be a student of learning at university. And you can answer it on anything. You could answer it on the history of bikes, the development of guitars in the 21st century. You could do it on Disney. I mean, it really doesn't matter, provided that you are interested in the topic and it has some research value to it. It matters that you enjoy it and you're interested, because you set the title. We don't. We just support you in your endeavour. So you need to be focusing on what you actually want to do. If you take it and you do well in it, it can actually bring down the offer grade that the university requires of you. So in some situations, a 3A offer could become 2 A's and a B. In exceptional circumstances, might become ABB. It just depends. If you're taking specific courses at university that require you to take them for a vocation in the future, so vocational courses, that's the word I'm looking for, then tailor your EPQ towards that. So medicine, for example, talk about a current topic or a current illness or a current disease. In law, maybe pick on a strand of law that particularly appeals to you. Maybe it's the justice system in Botswana, maybe it's female rights, whatever it might be. Try and pick upon a strand like that. But the EPQ is worth its weight in gold, and please is to be encouraged towards you for that. Okay. Loads of routes available. Just dispelling myth and fact for you. Your subject combination is crucial. It does just depend on what you do. Pre-16 grades, so those GCSE grades are vital. They're important, and they make up a part of the picture, but they are not the whole picture. So if you don't have good grades before the age of 16, don't worry. The top category is not taken out for you at all. It just means that we need to be far more focused on the final 2 years of school, which is where everything arguably is won or lost. Work experience and extracurricular are not crucial for most things. More often than not, wider reading and a simple interest in the subject is far more applicable, okay? And always remember to do this yourself, because plagiarism software exists within Ucas and really will be ruthless towards your application within that, okay? Try and think of who you are. That's really what we want in all this. So what makes good subject combination? This is always the question at interview, really, that we start with. We're looking at keeping your routes and doors open. Specific subjects require different things, but let's just look at some of the terminology to start with. You'll often hear people talk about strong subjects versus weak subjects, or as universities call them, facilitating versus non-facilitating. It's good to have at least one, preferably 2, and a real winner is 3 facilitating subjects in your combination. And those are these ones on the screen: English literature, maths and further maths, although further maths is slightly less relevant. Physics, biology, chemistry, geography, because it's a synthesis. It's made up of so many different subjects that make up the whole part, and it's a wonderful subject for universities because it teaches you a wide variety of different skills. History. History is the ultimate make-weight subject for anyone looking to go into the legal profession in the future. And languages. The most hopeless thing is that more often than not, English students cannot speak languages. So the more people who can speak languages coming through the English education system, the more attractive you are to universities and indeed employers in the future. Okay. Try and think beyond your subjects as well. Try and think beyond to the career path that you might want to take in the future and see what might be interesting to you at this particular moment. Okay. When you're choosing, the only notable exceptions we need to look out for are medicine, dentistry and veterinary, in which case you need to be taking biology and chemistry in your A-level subject combination, or whichever system you belong to, you need those as part of your route too. Mathematics is not relevant, or it's not a prerequisite requirement, but can be relevant within there. Engineering, you need maths and physics. Further maths is only required for certain courses. Law, you should have history or English literature. Journalism, you should have English literature. Computer science, you need maths and physics within there, okay? But more often than not, when you have 44 different subjects that you can choose from, what we need to focus on right now from the outset is that we're all doing something that you're going to enjoy. If you enjoy something, you're going to do better in it. It's going to keep your doors open in the future. And we talked about the EPQ. Very briefly, because there is a couple of people on here with foundation courses. Foundation courses will still allow entry into most of the universities in the United Kingdom. While I will always try and steer people towards A levels, foundation courses also have a place. They tend to be more specific to the business and the finance and the economics-based routes, but there are certain programs in there for engineering, for example. Foundation courses are more catered and geared towards international students in the UK. If you've got an option when you're looking at going to university of doing a foundation course to start your university experience, my advice to you as well is try and not do that at a university, in a university foundation course. Do it as part of a college-based foundation course, because very simply you get more help and you have more of a chance of reaching a high level. When you start a foundation course at university, it doesn't mean you go naturally onto the first year of the course the year after. You still have to hit quite a high level. So think where you'll be supported the most moving forward. So Brexit, COVID-19, how's that affecting the picture? Obviously, we've been hit quite a lot within the past sort of 2 years and beyond. If you look at the Brexit situation, all I can really say is all Brexit made us look is a little bit silly, and now the universities are desperate to try and get talent in from overseas again, because talent is there to be found in abundance from overseas countries. So we need to rebuild the confidence and bring people back across. And lots more schemes and funding and bursaries and grants will be put in place and come on stream over the course of a couple of years in order to do that. The view from COVID-19, if you're applying in this particular cycle, the myth is that universities are oversubscribed. That is certainly the case for this year, for 2021, but the picture will balance out again the following year. So try and not get too fixated on certain things that are happening right now, okay? What's the process? It's quite a long-winded process. It doesn't need to be, but it can be quite long-winded. Just don't leave it to the last minute. What we generally tend to do in the first year is get people starting to think from September onwards about where they might want to go and inspire you towards different courses. From inspiring you towards different courses, we then move into the actual open days, get you sent across to places and work out whether you need to have any work experience in there. By about May, June of the first year of your studies, if you're taking a 2-year course, we then start the application itself with you from there, okay? Over the course of the summer, starting into the last term of your last year, what we then do is start writing the personal statement, make sure that's all nice and neat, and then you're ready to submit by the deadline itself. If you submit this side of Christmas, then generally you get offers back within about 3 or 4 weeks. The later you leave it, then you can be waiting up to a couple of months in order to get a decision. And then you need to have made your final decision by May. And by May, you'll know exactly where it is you want to go. Don't ever be pressurized by universities themselves. Universities will try and put extra pressure on you to go to them as opposed to anyone else, because they're businesses, they want your money and they want you, okay? Nearly all degrees that we have in the UK are 3-year programs. There's a couple of course exceptions to that require 4 years. Those are generally MA programs or liberal arts. Everything is competitive in the UK because the number of applicants is so enormously high. But please bear in mind, most people don't know how to properly apply to university in the UK. So if you know how to apply, you have a natural advantage, hence what we're doing here. If you go up to Scotland, Scotland is no longer free, apart from for Scottish students within there, and they do 4-year courses. So bear that one in mind as well. So a 4-year course up in Scotland. The first year of the degree course in Scotland is equivalent to the final year of studies in the school system in England. London is just a name. So everyone wants to come to London because it's the capital. London is just a name. There's far more universities outside of London, albeit London has amazing universities in there too, but be a bit more creative in your thought. And watch out for some of the private universities there because the fees are enormous for them. You never have to apply to all 5 universities at once. No one ever knows this, but you never have to apply to all 5 universities at once. You can keep adding them in as you decide. So don't drag your application on until you've thought of all 5. If you can only think of 2 or 3, we apply with 2 or 3. We then lob in another one and another one after that. There is something called the alternative offer as well, which is not so commonly known. It's where the university will make you a counter offer to what you've offered them. And therefore, what we're also trying to do in the application is build in the flexibility for a university to make a counter offer to you as well, i.e. by showing them something else that is attractive about you and what else you could offer the university. Then there's a system called Ucas Extra. That opens in about March time. It runs for a couple of months, and that's where universities will now offer a 6th choice, whereby they're trying to get rid of places that they haven't been able to fill. This system is usually there for anyone who hasn't received any of their 5 offers, or who didn't like any of their 5 offers and now would like to apply to something different. As soon as you apply for Ucas Extra, anything that you have in hand is ditched. So we have to be careful with it, but it is there as another way. So you can always change your mind later on. Okay? Does it matter where you go? Well, look, generally, we always say that if you're going for a top bracket, your statistic is 15-1, almost roughly ignore that. Anything I really count as a good, strong university in the UK, provided that it has a course that you're generally concerned about. So forget the lies, the statistics, and all of these sorts of things. What matters, though, is are you going to be employable from where you go? Whether that's in the UK, whether it's overseas, I know certain universities carry stronger names, even regardless of where they are in the league tables themselves. But we will always say that for medium firms or small to medium firms in the United Kingdom, anything within that Russell Group bracket generally tends to make you more employable. I hate the terminology of the Russell Group, if I'm honest with you. It's a term that everyone gets really confused about. People think it means the top universities in the UK. It doesn't. It doesn't mean the top 24. It means the UK's leading 24 in research terminology. These are the ones who lobby and provide guidance to the government. The Russell Group is there on the left. But if you look at league tables, the Russell Group do not reflect the top 24 within the United Kingdom. So again, forget terminology, focus in on who you are and what kind of things you are interested in. There are no governmental league tables, just people's opinions, as with anything. Right, so jobs for you in advance of whatever we're going to do from this moment on over the next few weeks. I'd like you to come up with a mind map, as Ucas being your central nucleus to it. And leading off from there, I'd like you to put down subjects that you are interested in. Next to the subject, I'd then like you to draw an arrow off and put down whatever the requirements are for that subject in terms of what you think. Okay, this is the early stage of your research. Use www.ucas.com in order to go and do some of this research there, find out what the subject is, and then put the requirement down next to it. Choose what it is that you want to study. If you know, if you don't know, come up with lots of different variations on this mind map itself. This mind map is to reflect the scatteriness of your brain, your thinking process right now. What I want you to do, though, is to understand more of what the grade requirements will be and what people actually want. I've always found if you want to sell something to somebody, it's never just as straightforward as trying to go and sell it. In order to sell something effectively, you need to understand who you're selling to. It's basic psychology / sociology. You need to understand the person in which you're trying to sell yourself or the commodity over towards. And once you've talked to them, you can find out if they even want you before you even start the sales process. If you've already established you're not what they're looking for, then there's no point in wasting your time on it. Versus if you understand what they're looking for, you can actually tailor your application in order to sell yourself to them effectively. What does that mean? It means research, okay? So the Ucas website is where we actually start from for that. When you're applying to 5 universities, 1 or 2 of those should be at the very top. 1 or 2 of those should be in the middle, as in sort of courses you're happy with. And then 1 course only should be a backup. The backup, you should still be happy to go towards those. So we're going from happy backup all the way up to your dream. Where would you really like to go? And be as ambitious as you can possibly be, because anything is possible, okay? Clearing, I'll mention, we don't need to dwell on it because we're at the early stage of the process, but once you've got your grades, if you don't reach your university offer, a university system opens up called clearing, okay? Clearing is a bit of a bun fight in terms of on that day, universities publish a list of all courses that are still available, and if you have the grades and what they're looking for, then they'll give you a place at that moment. People dread clearing, and it's not a nice time really, but don't dread it, because ultimately people don't think that good universities or the main universities tend to come up within clearing. There's a lot of good universities in general, but the ones that are considered within that Russell Group, the Russell Group have now joined the clearing list as much as anything. And this was last year's clearing list. Even in a strong year, I've highlighted the ones that are coming up, and even medicine courses do indeed come up within clearing. So it's about being ready for it if you're going to need it. And you'll know roughly if you're going to need clearing a few days in advance. So at that point, we can always guide you further. What can you be doing now, ladies and gentlemen? Well, it depends on what the course you're looking to do is, but I want you to read as much as possible. Read books, read about the subject you might be interested in, and always keep a journal with you. So jot down any notes about what you found interesting. It really isn't about what you've read, it's about what you've understood and what we can then build into your application. Listen to podcasts. Podcasts are fascinating. TED Talks are worth their weight in gold as well, because they educate you on things beyond the confines of a syllabus. They actually round you off, develop your thinking, make you more student-like in your approach. If you can subscribe to journals, then please do within that. Or one of the ones I really do champion, and I'd like you to do this if you can, outside of school, but do it inside of school if you'd like to, is I like to buddy up with a friend. Generally speaking, try and do it with a friend in the first instance who wants to do something similar to you. And therefore you can have topical discussions based on something in economics or politics or law, something in the news all the time. So you're always just developing your conversational ability and your ability to think and make cross connections. Beyond that, I'd like you to buddy up with someone else who is not part of your course. And then I'd like you to be able to start explaining things that are interesting to you to them. It's a good thing if they're not interesting to them, because your job becomes explaining it to them, working harder to try and engage them and to make them understand what it is you're saying. If you can do that oratorically, so out loud, by the time it comes to writing your actual application itself, you'll be masters at exactly how to be concise and direct and persuasive in your arguments. Down the left here, and you will have this as a presentation to look for, but this is a guide if you were looking to go into economics, the sort of things that we'd recommend to you right now. Journals, websites, videos, podcasts, even entering Olympiads and competitions too. Experience, anything can be valuable provided that you know why you're doing it. So start as early as you can. Do it at home, do it abroad. Frequency is important, so you don't just dip in and dip out. Try and do something all the time. It's not necessary to be paid. Everyone wants to be paid for experiences, but if you're paid, you're just lucky. Other than that, try and pick something that helps you understand more about what it is to be in the real world. If you've got a specific course at university, then try and tailor your work experience towards that. But more often than not, when the English system always champions transferable skills, anything you do, we can find a relevance over towards your course itself. Okay, but there will never be a replacement. If you want to be a barrister, of going and sitting in a barrister's chamber, I mean, that will be the ultimate experience, because what it does is helps you confirm that this is the right course for you. And that's why I want people to do work experience, not for your application in terms of what you write on the paper, but so that you 100% know why it is that you are looking to do this course. Replacements for work experience as we come out of COVID. This was more relevant for the COVID times, but as you come out, you can find anything you want on online-based courses still. I mean, even this is an online-based course, but there are lots and lots of things that universities steer you towards as well in terms of experiences. So once you've looked at some of the university websites, you'll see some of the work experiences that they recommend. We can also recommend some towards you as well. Don't forget that YouTube is the most powerful resource in this world right now, in terms of you can find anything and everything that you want on there. So try and also do that. It's not a bad thing to use the internet for this, as opposed to doing it live, as long as, again, you're always just remembering what you take from the experience. Doing nothing is a choice, but it's generally made as a choice by someone who is missing the creative thought to figure out how to solve that particular problem. So if you can't think of it, ask me, talk to me, ask me in terms of what you could be doing at this moment in time. Keep reading, watch the BBC News, read the BBC website as a gateway resource for you. Just keep reading around anything and everything, not only on your course, but in other things, because universities love people who can make connections outside the classroom over a range of different topics and subjects, okay? And then just look, to round this off at the end for today, I mean, all I ever care about, and I want you to keep this in mind over the next few weeks, is who are you and who are you really, okay? Universities want that something special. They want to see your potential, your curiosity, your intellect, and your intellectual depth, and the wide-ranging interest and the ability to make connections, okay? Most people peak at the end of school. Universities don't want that. They want you to be ready for what comes next. The English system, to demystify it, it benefits you if you know how to pass it. Terrible thing to say, 100% true. So what we also have to do, and what we have a responsibility to do, and what you have a responsibility to creatively learn about, is something beyond the syllabus itself, okay? Start thinking of how your subject is relevant towards another subject. Once we can do that, it shapes a better application and it shapes a better student. And that's what we're selling you to universities based upon. Think early about this personal statement, please, before we actually speak next. There's a book I'd like to steer you towards. You don't have to read it, but it's a really fascinating, very short book, and it will appeal to anyone of any nationality because it is so short. It's called Exercises in Style. It's by a French writer called Robert Queneau. And what it essentially is a very, very simplistic story, which the author retells 99 different ways. And all he ever does is change the pitch, the tone, the intonation, sometimes the dialect, sometimes the accent. But what it does every time is change the story and the meaning of it for the audience, for the reader, for the listener. Now, only some of those will resonate with you and other ones will resonate towards someone else. But that's okay, and that's the very point, that we go back to the beginning and say, look, there is no such thing as an original story. It's about finding your voice within there. And by reading something like this, you'll start understanding the point, which is all we ever need to do is find your voice. Other than that, it's a really interesting, very funny, very quick read, but we are trying to find your voice. Don't worry about being original, worry about being unique, and worry about who you are. So have a look at that as well. And then this, and so what? Buddy up with someone before next time, start explaining things to other people and see how easy is it to do. There's a great one that I like to use in medical workshops as well, which is when you have to explain a very simple action towards someone. I'd like you to give this a go before next time as well. So just take an everyday action, whether it's tying your shoelaces, whether it's tying your tie, whether it's cooking an omelette, whatever it might be. I'd like you to take that exercise and get someone else to do it. However, they can only ever do what you tell them to do. It's a very simple Simon Says exercise. Simon Says is a children's game, if you don't know it, where you can only ever do someone if someone says Simon Says. If they don't, then that person can't do something. So in this particular example, if you're explaining an everyday action that we take for granted because we understand it, and get someone else to understand it from there, they can only ever follow exactly what it is that you tell them to do. So your job is to get them to tie their shoelace effectively. Their job is to really listen and to challenge back at you and only ever do what you are telling them to do. Why are we doing that? Because once again, we take everything for granted. We think that if we think it, someone else is going to understand it already. They're already going to know this about us. 100% not the case, okay? A university doesn't know you. No one else knows you. Never take anything for granted. Make sure you can always justify what it is you're saying. And I guarantee you, when we come to writing that personal statement, if you write something, at the end of that sentence, I'm going to challenge you and say, and so what? And if you can't justify why you said it, that sentence goes. Why? Because we don't have the word length to do it. Every word carries a real value, a real monetary value to it. And we're going to make you work really hard to understand it. What I would like you to do, just to round this one off, just to check that I still have people with me and you've all understood absolutely everything, would you please solve this puzzle in front of me? I'd like you to place the billiard balls in the circles to make 30, please. Off you go. When you've done it, let me know in the chat. This was one of my original exercises I ever used in all the presentations and seminars and webinars and all these things. And it's quite a nice one to round off with. I thought I'd return to it this year. It's been a while since using it, but can anyone please solve the very puzzle in front of you and then tell me why it is that I've used it? And you have basically 1 minute left to go. If you're a medical student, you'd have had 2 minutes and I'd have been talking at you all the way through. So can anyone solve it in the last minute? Well, now silence is golden, and with 35 people still here with me at this particular moment in time, either we have 35 very shy people, or 35 people who have been stumped by this instructional question in front of you. Place the billy balls in the circles to make 30. Does anyone know the answer? Well, let me give you a steer. If the first number is 11 and the second number is 13, what would be the third number?
Six.
It is 6, but where's the 6 on the picture?
Nowhere.
You have to turn the 9 upside down. I don't know.
Very good. Thank you very much. It's exactly the point, in the fact that everything is always there in front of you. Sometimes it's about being creative, and more often than not, it's absolutely about reading the question. So when people actually read something like this at face value, and we do use it as a medical school one, but when you look at it to start with, the presence of the pluses in there confuses you, whereas actually the instruction is never to add them up. It's always just to place the billiard balls in there. So if the instruction is asking you to place it in there, all you're doing is taking that ball, you're turning it upside down, and you're placing it in there, and you still get exactly the result that you actually want. Why is it important? Because sometimes it's about finding creative solutions. So if you don't think you have what you need at face value, we need to be creative about how we can actually get you to that point. The university system is about creative thought, creative thinking. It isn't just a shut-off process if you can't see the grades down there in front of you. It's about how we can actually walk you there. So the more creative we can be with each other over the next 3 weeks, the better, because then we'll actually start getting to you to where you might want to be in the future. So, right, that draws us to a close on this week's start of the Ready for Excellence programme. I have to say thank you indeed for joining everyone for all the sessions on the Ready for Excellence programme. It's here to be able to help you move forwards and get ready for the start of the next academic year, etc., etc. But it should be nice and relevant, nice and current. It's going to work best over the next few weeks in all subjects if you have some questions and you do feedback to us. But thank you for joining us. Does anyone have anything now? Otherwise, I will see you in what is basically a fortnight's time from today, because it won't be next week. Does anyone have any immediate questions? Will there be a recording of the conference or not? Yes, there will indeed be a recording. We have been recording this one, and all sessions will be recorded for you and streamed at a later point. Where can you access the recordings? I will defer that to Jason, who is our marketing guru, marketing manager here, and in charge of all digital content. So I'm sure he will put that link up for you at another point. Just see if I have any others. Otherwise, I'll say a very good day to you all. Good day. I mean, have a lovely weekend. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time. In the meantime, if you want to ask questions before we meet again, I'm always available individually as well. I'm just going to put my email address into the box here for you too. So feel free to contact me if you need anything. Very best, and have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.